Good afternoon and welcome. I think an introduction has been made, but just to give a sense of context, I have on either side of me, between them, 61 international hundreds, if you combine tests and ODIs, 30,000 international runs, again, if you combine tests and ODIs, but, much more importantly, the stars of some of India's most celebrated performances on a cricket field. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sourav Ganguly, VVS Laxman. Thank you. We'll start, I think, with the one that most people tend to remember the most, Eden Gardens 2001. When did you actually went in for that 281? What would take us inside your head? What was happening?
Nothing. Again, the situation we were in, 274 runs behind. And luckily for me, I had a good knock in the first innings. I got a 50. Yeah. And then I was told by the captain that I was going to bat at number 3, my favorite position. So I was very happy with that decision. But realistically, we had no chance of winning the game from that situation. So all I wanted to go out and do was bat as long as possible. And as it turned out, I think it was probably one of the best test matches both the teams who played at Eden Gardens felt. And I think one good thing which happened was we never gave up. And I think that test match and that test series showed that if you don't give up and always try your best, miracles can happen. And I think the test win at Eden Gardens was a miracle.
It happened again in Adelaide, didn't it? Another miracle.
In fact, I still remember John Wright, our coach. Australia had got 550 runs.
That's right.
And we were some 70 or 80 for 4.
Yeah.
And I remember John Wright, start of the third day morning, when we were knocking before the match started, he came. We usually have a huddle before the start of the game, and he told, boys, we did one miracle in Kolkata. So the two guys who were part of that miracle are batting together, so why not have one more miracle? And as it turned out, it was probably, again, one of the most fascinating test matches I've been part of, and probably one of the most favorite test matches as far as the victories is concerned, because I always felt that victories in tough conditions, in alien conditions, overseas conditions always gave me a lot of satisfaction. So I think from the situation we were in at the start of the third day, to go on to win the game against Australia in their own backyard, I think gave me immense satisfaction.
Sourav, you became India captain in November 2000. The Eden Gardens test was March 2001. And it sort of set the template, I feel, a sort of benchmark of what the Fab Four, and then you had Sehwag, and then you had Kumble, that golden generation could achieve. When did you actually sniff victory at the Eden Gardens?
Probably an hour before the last day, the close of play.
Yeah.
And I still remember an incident at Eden Gardens during the test match on the third day, and we were staying at the Taj Hotel in Calcutta, and we were down. I know Australia had got 400 odds, and we were 190 all out. And my mother-in-law came with dinner that night at my hotel with my wife, and I was obviously a little upset that we might lose the series 2-0. We lost the first one in Mumbai. And I think VVS and Rahul were just starting to bat, and they were batting overnight. So my mother-in-law came with some lovely food, and I was quiet having my food. She said, "You're going to win this test match." So I didn't react for the first time, and I just kept eating. And then she again said, "You're going to win this test match." So I was thinking, do all mother-in-laws do the same thing all the time? And I didn't say anything because, she was trying to get me going and make me feel happy. And I didn't react. And I told my wife when she went back in the night, I said, why did she have to say that? We're in no position to win this test match. And that's it. And then on day 5, when we finished the test match and we won, because Australia were 3 down at tea.
That's right.
And Steve Waugh was batting. I still remember he flicked one of Harbhajan Singh, who was turning it square, and I dropped him at short fine leg just the over before tea. And Steve turned around and looked at me. And I know what he was exactly trying to say, but he didn't say anything. And he walked past me with that look because,
He thought you were Herschel Gibbs.
we were having a bit of bit of a word going on during the series, and he just kept staring at me till we went past the ropes, and I was feeling miserable. I said, Steve Waugh, there was 70 odd for 3, and I dropped him just before tea. You know, Australia would have had to come back with a new pair after tea time. But then immediately after tea time, he flicked again and got caught at backward short leg. So we didn't realize that we would win till the last 7 overs, because McGrath and Gillespie had a big partnership. They batted for about 7 overs till Harbhajan got him out. So it was a fabulous test match. And for me, I keep talking to Lakshman, and I'm sure during the course of this discussion you will hear a lot about Brisbane, you'll hear a lot about Adelaide, and Lakshman might feel that Adelaide is probably his best test match. He always keeps saying that, but I think Eden Gardens was special. It was a miracle. I don't think such things happen again. I don't think Adelaide was a miracle. Adelaide was 2 outstanding players playing at their best, Rahul Dravid and VVS Lakshman. But to come back from behind in a follow-on game and get to 600 and then get an opposition out in 2.5 sessions, I think those things don't happen very often in sport. So I was fortunate enough to be a part of it. And I think it changed Indian cricket. It changed Indian cricket. It made people around the world sit up, because Australia came to India with 16 wins in a row. Nobody could beat them home and away. And we keep harping about overseas victories, home victories, and I think that was the only side who played exceptionally well wherever they went during the day, or Australia. And it just gave a certain amount of steel in that team. You know, we had players who wouldn't talk much. You know, the likes of Dravid, VVS, Sachin himself, wouldn't talk much about the game, they're not very loud person, but they would go about their job. And I could see as a captain in the dressing room that there was a quiet belief inside that we can get through tough periods. And then a couple of years later, it happened in Adelaide as well. It happened in Headingley as well in 2002, when we won the toss on a green pitch in Headingley, north of England. And I still remember Ian Botham looking at me after the toss and said, "You've decided to bat on this pitch?" I said, "Yeah, I've decided to bat on this pitch because I'm playing 2 spinners." And he said, "Good luck. You really need some good luck." And we finished scoring 600. So
Yeah.
that's been the strength of the team.
Most favorite victory ever? Greatest moment in your career?
Yeah, as a captain, yes. We've had some great wins as a captain during that era, but I think Eden Garden was very, very special because the situation we were in. And, you know, to concede a lead of almost 300 in the third innings and then come from behind, get 600 and then get a team out in 2 sessions and then go on to win the next test match in Chennai and win the series 2-1. I don't think it happens very often like that. And I think it was special because not only because of the win, but also I think it turned the team into a very solid unit.
Yeah. No, that's what I was saying, that it set the sort of benchmark for what this team could do. 2003 in Australia, I thought was 2003-04, Steve Waugh's farewell series. I thought was very, very special. We know about Adelaide and we know about Sydney, but I don't think many people remember what happened in Brisbane. And I'd like you to talk about it because it was a tremendous partnership between the two of you. And that, again, set the tone for that series, 1-1 draw. I'll tell people what exactly happened in that test match when you two came together. Australia had scored 323 in the first innings. India were 127 for 4. No team in the past 10 years had taken a lead against Australia in a home series. 127 for 4, these two gentlemen came together. What happened after that?
Well, after that, I just emulated VVS Lakshman. He kept hitting through the offside, through the onside, and I suddenly realized that you have a batting unit where Dravid gets hundreds against Australia. VVS Lakshman wakes up and gets hundreds like having breakfast against Australia. And there is Sachin Tendulkar who scores runs everywhere. So you are the odd man out at number 5 and number 6. So you also need to do something, and I batted well with VVS. And I got 100 and he
144, was it?
Yeah, I got 100 and he got a 70. Young Parthiv Patel, I thought, played very well in that test match. And we went past Australia and obviously we had a good series after that.
I found it interesting, that series, you scored 100 in Adelaide. You scored 100 in Sydney in the last test. This was the 100 and Tendulkar said, batting at the other end. You were hitting Brett Lee for 4s between point and cover, bisecting that gap. And he said, I would never have been able to do something like that. But you said at the end of the series that Brisbane was your favorite innings. Why was that?
I think that was the toughest wicket on the entire tour. And more importantly, we wanted to start off well. When you're playing against a tough opponent like Australia, in Australia, you have to always start well, otherwise they will never ever give a hinge. And we were all very determined to do well in Australia. I remember while the 2001 series turned the mindset or changed the mindset of the entire team, for me, personally, my first tour to Australia in 99-2000 changed me as a person and as a player. I became much more confident about my abilities after scoring that 167 at Sydney, my first test 100. And I always wanted to do well in Australia. And I remember when we landed there, I think 2 weeks before the first test started. And I remember John Wright, I had one mental conditioning coach in Sandy Gordon. So all of us were very keen to do well in Australia, and probably that was our dream to win the test series in Australia. But then we also had the confidence of doing well overseas. Saurav just mentioned about the victory at Headingley. We did well in West Indies. We did well in Zimbabwe. So we were confident and we were all very keen to do well in Australia. And that was the first test on a tough wicket, typical Gabba wicket, where there was seam of the wicket, there was bounce, there was swing in the air, and Australia at their best, always aggressive to pick up wickets. And again, which you just mentioned, the situation I was in when I walked out to bat, and the way I batted, it was a very fluent innings. Yeah, I was disappointed not to have got 100, but sometimes for me, more than the numbers, the way I bat, in what situation I bat, and the way I release the pressure from the home team against the opposition, that always gives me immense satisfaction. And that was one innings which was a fluent innings, and it totally released the pressure. Saurav from the other end was batting well, and both of us were stroking freely. So that's why I felt on a tough wicket, first test match in a tough series, to play the way I did. That always was a special test match for me.
You talk about playing in Australia, but I'll remind you of a test in this very city, Saurav's farewell series, 2008. They couldn't get you out at all. You scored 200 not out in the first innings and 59 not out in the second innings. What is it with you in Australia?
I'm not sure. I'm still not been able to answer that question. But see, I think their style of cricket always used to get the best out of me. Not only me, but the entire Indian team. If you see, you just mentioned 16 consecutive wins when they came to India. It was only the Indian team in 2000 who used to always put pressure on the Australian side. Australian side were always known almost like an invincible. But it was the Indian team which always used to raise its level whenever we played against Australia. So probably their aggressive nature, always looking to take your wicket, always got the best out of me. And I think it's always a pleasure, I feel, when you get runs against the best side in world cricket, probably the best bowling attack. Always had Shane Warne, McGrath, Bretley at his best, then Gillespie again at his best. Kasparovich could bowl well, both with the old ball as well as with the new ball. To get consistently runs against that kind of a bowling attack is always special, but there's no real answer why I was able to do that.
I think for VVS, for me, the game-changing or his career-changing innings was the 100 he got against Australia in 1999 in Sydney. It was the last test of the series and we were battered. We never played well in overseas conditions those then. It was the early part of our careers as well. And I still remember standing in the slips with VVS, and he was an outstanding slip fielder. He was standing at, I think, second slip when I was at first slip, and it was the last innings of the series, and he was walking up and down next to me saying that he was asked to open that series. And he struggled a bit with the new ball, and he said that I'll be dropped. I'll go back and try and help Hyderabad cricket. I'll see what I can do. And we were having all those discussions in the second slip. And I kept looking at him and saying, VVS, don't worry, things will be fine. Because I also knew that he was struggling as an opener with the new ball against McGrath and Bretley. And then he got 160, I think, in the second innings. Yeah, 167 in the second innings. And when he finished that knock and he walked past into the Sydney dressing room, I think he hasn't failed in Sydney ever. He's got hundreds all three times he's played at Sydney. Yeah. So, and then he was someone who was supposed to be dropped from the test team, was picked for the one-day team at the end of that innings, and then VVS took on from there against Australia. I think we were in a generation, we played in a generation where we wanted to make a difference in Indian cricket. We were a very strong team at home. I played my first test in 1996. VBS played in 1997 or in 1996, I think. 6 itself. So we played in an era where I could see when I went to England in 1996, although I did get hundreds in back-to-back test matches in England, there was a feeling in the opposition that they're a gifted side, they're a talented side, they'll play well. Tendulkar will get 100, Azhar will get 100, Ganguly will get 100, or a Dravid or a Lakshman, but ultimately we'll beat them. See, that was the feeling among oppositions when we toured abroad, and we wanted to change that. And I was fortunate enough to play in a period, or captain in a period, where we had some amazingly gifted players. You know, you talk about the Fab Four, and I keep seeing that on TV, keep reading that in the newspapers. But you know, it was about fabulous 6 or 7. You cannot forget Virendra Sehwag. You know, people talk about Sunil Gavaskar in Test cricket for India, the impact he had. But the impact that man had at the top of the order in one day in Test cricket, especially for someone who batted all his life at number 6, to come up and open an innings for India in overseas conditions, 100 in Pakistan, 100 in Australia, 100 in England, you just name it. He would go overseas, and 100 in New Zealand. Now, he got hundreds there on pitches. 100 on debut in South Africa.
Yeah.
So he was probably as good as anyone in the world I've seen. Virendra Sehwag, Anil Kumble as a spinner. He would hardly take the ball out of his hand. I remember in Sydney, and at the last test it was 1-1, and we had got 700. And I went up to Anil on the 5th day of the 4th test match, and all the test matches went to day 5 in Australia. It didn't finish early, 2 days, 3 days, it went to day 5. And I remember in the morning of the game in Sydney, I went into the dressing room and I asked Anil, how is he feeling? He said, I'm fine. I said, you've bowled a lot of overs in this series. How do I handle you on day 5? Because I need you to bowl, because you've been the best bowler of the team and we need to win the series. He said, just give somebody from the other end and I'll keep bowling from this end till the end of the day's play. You know, when you have players of that ability, that mindset, it makes life a lot easy for any captain. And Harbhajan Singh, the off spinner, my biggest challenge in that era was to tell either of them that you're not playing in overseas conditions. And that was the toughest thing to do. If I would tell Anil in England on a seaming pitch that Anil, Harbhajan's got 50 wickets in a year, you have a break this game, he would say, I've got 400 wickets. So I had to handle that. And I remember in Brisbane, we left Anil out for the test match, and he came to me after the team meeting was over, and he said, and with due respect to Anil, you know, it's in light terms, he said, I want to go back, I want to retire because I'm not playing. And he had so much of pride, in him, and he was such a champion performer. Sitting out hurt him, and I had to somehow hold his hands and say, Anil, I'll get you to play, don't worry. So, you know, what you see of Dhoni, what you see of Virat Kohli as captain, Ganguly's captaincy days were different. I had to ask Lakshman to open. He would say, no, I'm not opening. I would ask Anil Kumble to sit out once in a while. He had to answer 10 questions. And the biggest challenge for me was to handle Ashish Nehra. That was the toughest thing for me, because he was a dear friend, and every time I would leave him out because I was worried about his ankle, I knew the doorbell would ring at 11 o'clock in the night after the game. And I had to give him an explanation that why is he sitting out. I said, no, Ashish, I feel your ankle will creak, your side will be a little difficult, we've got a long tour, you have a break. No, I had to answer him questions because they had to play. So a lot of people think captaincy is an easier thing to do, but when you have greats like these boys, it's not an easy thing to do because you've got a lot of answering to do.
Given that we're at the Leadership Summit, what leadership skills do you cherish most? What was it like? Because it's probably one of the most high-pressure jobs in the sporting world.
I never worried what was happening outside. A lot of people said that as a captain, as an Indian player, you don't read newspapers, but I read newspapers. And I couldn't manage to keep it away because it would have been slipped under your door, whichever hotel you stayed. And first thing you wake up in the morning is you pick the newspaper, and invariably you keep thinking at the back of your mind, I will not read it. But invariably you turn the back page and see whose photograph is there at the back page, and you'll end up reading it. And for me, the thing I tried to do when I was captain was to be patient with them. And I was an yes man, yes. Lakshman 4, yes. Anil Kumble, new ball, yes. Zahir Khan, yes. And I had to keep them going. That whatever you want will happen, but you turn up and bowl well. I remember asking Zahir Khan, we were playing Matthew Hayden against Australia, and I told him, I used to stand at mid-off, and I said, Zach, he was such an outstanding bowler. The other day, Kapil Dev was saying that he hasn't seen anybody who bowled so well in Indian conditions as Zahir Khan, and it was a great compliment from a great man. And I remember telling Zahir Khan in Brisbane that, Zach, I've got a deep fine leg, I've got a deep square leg, I've got a deep mid-wicket to Matthew Hayden, you need to bounce him. So he ran up and he bowled an outswinger pitched up in the first delivery. And I went up to him and said, Zach, you've seen the field? He said, yeah, I've seen the field. I said, okay. Next ball again pitched up and outswing. He finished the over without bouncing a single delivery. And I had to go and ask him that, what is it? Because I'm being made to look like a fool because I've put a deep square leg, deep mid-wicket, deep fine leg. I've just got one slip and you're pitching it up and swinging it away. If you pitch it up and swing it away, tell me I'll put another slip. But that's the way it was. You had to be nice with them. And John Wright. And John Wright, who Lakshman said that spoke about script writing in Adelaide. He said that let's write another script. I don't know whether he's become a script writer since then because he's been working for Mumbai Indians. The hardest thing was to deal with him also because every time India wouldn't play well, and Amrit Mathur's here, he's sitting right at the back and smiling. He knows a few things about the dressing room. The freezer in the dressing room would be under trouble because John Wright would walk in, bang in, pick the water out, abuse, and then go back outside as if nothing has happened. So everything looks hunky-dory from outside. You see the wrist work of VVS Lakshman through the onside. You see Dravid, so much of determination and guts. And then you see Tendulkar, and then you see Virendra Sehwag, who would whistle down to bat when playing against Glenn McGrath. So you had to deal with various kinds of people. But the best thing was that their mind was thinking the same thing, that we want to play well, we want to take Indian cricket forward. And that's why I thought we were such a good team during that era.
VVS, you've of course played under him. What kind of a captain? Did he swear a lot other than from the Lord's balcony with his shirt off?
I thought my players swore at me, rather me swearing at the players. Yes?
Yeah, I think Saurav was a very emotional person. And you could see that at the end of that match, winning the NatWest Trophy, and I know for what reason, because I was sitting next to him and I was suddenly shocked.
To the gym a few more times.
What was he doing, removing his t-shirt?
He told me that I'm going to remove my shirt.
No, it came as a surprise to me, but that's Saurav Ganguly. He's a very passionate person, very emotional, and when I talk about passion, it's about passion of Indian cricket playing to its potential, and I think he was a fabulous leader. But good thing about leaders is they identify the core group. Saurav just mentioned some names, so he identified that core group because when he took over the captaincy in 2000, he realized that if India had to win consistently, not only in India but overseas, he has to identify match winners, which exactly is done. Like someone like Sehwag is talking about Zahir Khan, he's talking about Harbhajan Singh, he's talking about Ashish Nehra. All of them were identified by Saurav, and opportunities were given. Yuvraj Singh, and Saurav backed them, because he knew that even though they were sometimes not performing to their potential, he knew the quality these players had. And that's what a good leader always does. He identifies match winners. He identifies players who are not only very skillful, but players who take pride in their performance. And if every player in the team takes pride in their performance, the job becomes easier to the captain. Yeah, he'll have a tough time probably convincing them, but it's good. He's trying to convince them because everyone wants to do well for the country. And I think all of us know how big an opportunity or an honor it is to play for the country. So good thing about Saurav is he identified the core group. He identified match winners who would take India to where it actually should be, and reach its potential.
Has Dhoni not done that?
I don't see why he has not done that. He has done that, and I think that the results show for himself. And again, all the captains I played under, the first quality of a captain is they have to be leading from the front. So all the captains I played under were themselves, great performers for the team, and because of that they've been recognized as the captain. The only difference between Dhoni and Saurav is more emotional and Dhoni is just opposite. It doesn't show his emotions at all. And I always believe that every individual is unique, every individual is different. And I think the results, what Dhoni has given is phenomenal. And I was most impressed with the way Dhoni has handled the transition. And it was also tough when he took over the captaincy that he had senior players who have already done well for the country. And I wouldn't call superstars, but they've done well for the country and they had a reputation. Whereas Saurav took over a team, except for Anil and Sachin, the others were just finding their feet, including myself at the international level. I just played probably 17 or 18 test matches when Saurav became the captain. Whereas Dhoni had players like Sachin, he had players like Saurav himself, then myself, and then Rahul, who already played more than 80, 90 test matches or 100 test matches. It was difficult task for Dhoni, but the way he has handled the seniors was really exemplary. And then the transition, once we all retired, the way
We'll get to that.
the way he has held the transition of the Indian team is again fantastic. And I think his record speaks for itself. He's been an exceptional leader for the country.
Saurav, I don't agree with what VVS is saying. Because if Dhoni's done that, and if he's such an exceptional leader, why have we lost 10 of the last 12 test matches we've played abroad? And when you were captain, that is when India first became competent, then very good travelers. What exactly is happening overseas?
Yeah, I think that's one area Dhoni needs to look at and needs to correct it. He is on the tour to Australia. He'll miss the first test match because of an injury and then he plays the next 3. I think that's one area he'll have to find a solution to. And I think the problem since 2011, where India have been losing in Australia, South Africa, England, and losing very poorly, is because the batting hasn't stood up. I know you talk about the times of 2003 when we toured Australia. I think Brisbane first test we got 450. Adelaide as the Lakshman and Dravid test 550. Then we went on to get 700 in Sydney. Anil Kumble used to say one thing: you give me the runs on the board, I'll win you test matches. And I think that's very important in cricket. You have to put runs on the board, and that's what India is struggling to do. The last test match at Oval for me was very, very disappointing on the tour to England. India got all out in the first innings in 42 overs and the second innings in 25 overs. And I think that dressing room, when you see the dressing room, the likes of Kohli, Rahane, Pujara, they're much better players than that. Yes, they're young. They're young in terms of test cricket, but not young in terms of one-day cricket. But with the ability they have, and when you watch Virat Kohli play, the innings he played in Ranchi, just unbelievable. The way he spaced his innings, the way he got about the job. You can see his passion on the field. And, you don't expect that team not to fare well in Australia. I think for me, they have to prepare well in overseas conditions. That's the key. It's what you do before the start of the first test and not during the 4 test matches. You got to go early. You got to play a lot of cricket. You got to get used to the bounce. And because it's a different ball game. It's a different ball game in these conditions when there's pace, there's bounce, there's green pitch, there's seam going around for 60, 70 overs. You don't see spinners probably till the 60th, 70th over. It's a completely different ball game, and you got to get your mind used to those situations and conditions. I'm hoping for them to do well in Australia, because I think once again this team is capable of doing well in overseas conditions. They've had the experience of poor performance in England, and hopefully they can learn from it and become a better team. But also what surprises me in modern day cricket is the trend which we are seeing with touring teams. You look at Australia, they went to Abu Dhabi against Pakistan, lost 2-0. They came to India, lost 4-0. You look at Sri Lanka, they're such a tough one-day side. They came to India 5-0. And this is the problem which I'm seeing since 2011, since England beat us here 2-1 in the in the Test series. Teams who are touring are not being able to play well.
No, I think the only significant away win would be Australia going to South Africa and winning.
But I think those are similar conditions.
Yeah,
Australia and South Africa are similar conditions. Yeah. Whether you play a test match in Cape Town or whether you play a test match in Brisbane, it's not much of a difference. What England did well before the Ashes in 2011 or 2011, I think, where they beat Australia 3-1, they were there a month before the Ashes. They kept playing for 3 or 4 warm-up games. They got completely used to the conditions. And by the time the first test came, Alistair Cook finished with a double 100. The first test of any overseas series is so crucial. You talk about Brisbane. That's the first test of the series. We got Australia out for 300, and then we went on to get 450. It just changes the thinking in the dressing room. But on the other side, if you're not used to the conditions and you keep nicking in first test match in Brisbane where there is bounce, and it's different for for the batsman. Sometimes you actually nick from the middle of the bat into the first slip and second slip area. Then the entire atmosphere in the dressing room changes. So I think teams have to prepare a lot better when they travel to overseas conditions. I know it's tough in modern day cricket with all the cricket you play. You're just traveling from one city to another, one country to another, and just turning up on the cricket field. So for me, I think this tour of India to Australia is very important. I still feel they're playing less cricket before the start of the series. Two-day matches before the first test in Brisbane is not enough because you just get one inning. And when you have to make sure that even a Virat Kohli who's done well in Australia, he will take 3-4 innings to get used to before the first test matches. So I think that's been an issue. And hopefully if they can find a way out to do this, there's enough talent in this dressing room to play well.
You have won more test matches overseas than any other India captain. Dhoni has lost more matches overseas than any other India captain. Do you think he deserves to be captain of India in test matches?
See, it's not a comparison between Ganguly and Dhoni. I've always felt that Indian cricket is important. We come in different eras. It's like a relay race. We hold the baton and we keep passing it on. And it was Sachin before
me. Is it time for him to pass on the baton then?
We'll have to wait and see. I don't think it's going to happen before the World Cup, and it shouldn't happen before the World Cup. He's got an opportunity in Australia to change things right. His one-day performance as captain is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm talking only about the test side.
Yes, there is question mark about his test match wins, especially overseas, when you lose 14, 15 test matches in 17. Obviously, people will ask questions, and he's got to live with that. All of us have to live with that. I lived with the tag of losing finals. And I was fed up of losing Tri-Series, World Cup finals, Champions League, Champions Trophy finals, and getting into winning positions. But he managed to get past that, win World Cups and Champions Trophies and 2 T20 World Cups. But this is one area where he will have to really find a way to get a solution because he's been around for a long time. He's been captain of India for a long time, and I think he's got the ability to change it.
You've already talked about the new team, both of you, but given the theme of the summit is reshaping India, what about reshaping of Indian cricket? Where do you see it going?
I think there's a lot of positives, and especially the talent we have got in the current Indian team. I think we're really impressed, not only with the batsmen, but the recent success has shown that we've got capable bowlers as well. So it's really good to see, exciting to see young Indian fast bowlers. Someone like Umesh Yadav, I thought, bowled beautifully in the recently concluded one-day series against Sri Lanka. You got Ishant Sharma who's making a good comeback. Varun Aaron, except that he gets injured frequently. And you got 2-3 good spinners. So I think the batting was always our strength, but it's our bowling which has been letting down recently. But I think it's good to see young fast bowlers coming into the Indian team. Now it's about how they convert that talent, how they convert that potential. And believe me, these guys are very, very talented guys. It's only about converting that into performances. And those performances which the next level is the overseas performances. Like we still feel the way they played at Lord's. I know the last 3 test matches in England was a disappointment. But the same team beat the England side on a tough Lord's wicket. So they've got the potential. They've got the talent. It's about maintaining that consistency and repeating the good things which will give them the desired results. But I think it's an exciting time ahead for Indian cricket.
See, in terms of Indian cricket, I feel Indian cricket will always be strong because of the infrastructure we've developed in the last 10 years. VVS would agree. We go to Australia. I went to Australia in 1991. VVS wasn't a part of the tour, and I walked into the MCG. I was awestruck to see the facilities, the nets, the wickets, the ground, the gyms, and now you go to every Indian ground. The BCCI has been wonderful in building facilities. You go to Nagpur, which is a smaller city, Ranchi, which is a small city, Chhattisgarh. You go to all those venues and see the stadiums they've built. Mohali, Chennai, Calcutta, they're all major cities. Mumbai, they're all major cities. They've always had facilities. But when you go to these small places and see the facilities, the grounds, the pitches, the training areas, it only tell you that Indian cricket has got all the infrastructure to produce players. And we keep producing players. It's about getting the mindset right of playing overseas well. I think that's one area where Indian cricket will really have to toughen themselves up because the quality is there. You saw an era of Dravid, Tendulkar, Lakshman, Ganguly, but look at this era of Pujara, Rahane, Kohli, Rohit Sharma. 264 in a one-day game. It's unreal. Somebody asked me how was it. I said I didn't realize whether I was watching live cricket or a highlights. because it was only 6 and 4s. To get 264 in a 50-over game in any condition. My curator told me, I'm with the Cricket Association of Bengal, and my curator told me, see how good a pitch I've prepared. Rohit Sharma got 264. I said, you prepare good pitches every day, and I'll see how many get 264 in a one-day game. So it just goes to show the class and the quality of the players. And if with what they're on this tour of Australia and with people like Ravi around, if they can get the side to think properly and get the side to be motivated of cutsing it out on fast, quick pitches, I think Indian cricket has got a very, very bright future. I still consider us as one of the contenders in Australia. You've read about Fleming or other overseas people saying that fast, bouncy pitches, India may not have a chance, but I don't think that's a correct statement. India in one-day format will have chances in every condition. When you watch Dhawan, when you watch Rahane, when you watch Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, and then the captain coming at 6, who to me is one of the best one-day players in the world at the moment. It's a terrific side, and they'll fight hard to do well in Australia.
You took over the captaincy under the shadow of match fixing. Spot fixing is being talked about a lot now. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I heard a lot about that in 2000, to be honest, but I really actually did not get to see it very closely. We were young then, I was a young captain, and the good thing which happened to me was I went on to play for Lancashire that summer in the year 2000. I was the overseas professional for Lancashire, and I spent 6 months away from March till September during that period when all these things were happening in India. And when I came back, obviously I got a team. I was forced to get a team with all new young players. So I really didn't get the idea of match fixing. We still spoke about it. Lakshman was young, Dravid was young, I was young in that era, and we would have a quiet word in the dressing room saying that, how does it happen? Why hasn't anybody even approached us? So how do people say that fixing is going on, and this guy has done that guy has done that? We've never experienced this, so we couldn't have the first-hand knowledge of match fixing other than reading it in newspapers, other than hearing all around that this is what is going on. There are certain people who get booked by it and certain people who do it. But luckily when I came back in September and we went to Nairobi, I still remember in 2000, to play the Champions Trophy, where we were outstanding in the tournament, I had already been given a young team. So I didn't have that problem of dealing with people who were named or whatever may be the thing to be a part of the team. So I got a clean slate to play with, and that probably made my life easier.
Your last series against Australia, 2008, you scored 100 in it, and your last test, you made 85 in the first innings. The second innings was like Bradman's, of course. You were out for 0.
Only the 0 was like Bradman, not the rest.
Do you regret having retired when you did? Should you have played on for longer?
See, this is an answer which any cricketer will not be able to give you correctly, because this is so close to a heart. Even when VVS Lakshman finished and Sachin Tendulkar finished last year, if you ask them, they would still want to keep batting, because this is so passionate. We do so much of things after that. We will keep doing it till we live. But that happiness or satisfaction of the ball hitting the middle of the bat, or watching VVS step out to Shane Warne and hit him through the onside on a top pitch which is turning square. You don't get that satisfaction in anything else in life. You could be the coach of the team, you could be part of the IPL, you could run the cricket in India, but that satisfaction never comes from anything, and that will always remain. But you'll also have to realize that sport doesn't go on forever. My favorite sportsman, Diego Maradona, finished, and I watched him play football. He was like God playing football. Watched him for Argentina, watched him for Napoli. He would turn up in the ground and people would cry that Diego Maradona has turned up, and he's finished playing. So that's a situation which we all have to deal with. I'm a firm believer that you go on a high when everyone says that he could have still played, and I'm happy to get that answer from you, our question that why he didn't play after that. And I think that's, when you play for a long period, I've gone on to play about 430 games for India. It's about going when you're doing well. Yes, we all have pressures. No cricketer in the world will be going through phases where there is no pressure on his place. It's happened to the great Brian Lara. It's happened to Sachin. It's happened to VVS. It's happened to me. That's part and parcel of sport. That will happen to everyone. But the best thing is to know when to go, and you should always go when you're playing well, because that one series will never stop. Okay, I've got 100, one more series. You get 100, okay, let me go for one more series. And that will never stop. And by the time you realize that, there's somebody else pushing you out. So you don't want to go through that situation when you've played for such a long time.
When you played your last test match, you didn't know it was your last test match. It was in Australia. You came back before the start of the New Zealand series. You said quits. What
Yes,
was that
actually,
like?
I was very clear in 2010 itself that I want to retire in Australia. My ultimate dream was to beat Australia in Australia. But the way we played against England in England and followed with terrible loss in Australia, I thought that I would play one more season. And the reason for that is the same English team was coming back to India, followed with Australia and India. And that's why I always played cricket, this pride of doing well for the country. So my ultimate goal was to beat England and Australia and then probably retire. So I was looking to play one more season. But in fact, all my colleagues knew that I was going to retire in 2011 in Australia. And then there was an internal battle. And as Saurav told, it's never easy to announce when you want to retire because this is a game you're so passionate about. And you're getting an opportunity to represent the country, which not many youngsters or many cricketers in the country do get. So I think that the internal batting was, we didn't do well overseas. And following that season where there were 10 test matches, 2 against New Zealand, 4 against England and 4 against Australia in India, India was going to play for the next 2 years only in overseas conditions. So what was more important? Was it an opportunity for a youngster to get used to Indian conditions, used to international cricket, by scoring runs in Indian conditions and then going to South Africa or England or Australia and doing well, or even New Zealand? So that was the internal battle I had, and I always played with the ideal that the team comes ahead of my personal choice or my personal scores, So I just stuck to that same ideals, and I felt that it was important for a youngster to get an opportunity and establish himself in international cricket in familiar condition, then going to Durban and making his debut against the South Africans. I know how tough it is to play your first test match in South Africa against a formidable bowling attack. So that was the battle I had, and I'm so glad because the ultimate thing is no one required to be convinced than yourself when you're making such a decision. And I feel that your retirement is as important as your first test match because ultimately you have to live with that decision. So I'm so happy that I have made the right decision at the right time. And as cricketers, you always want to carry on, but it's a physical sport. And it's a sport where it's not an individual sport, it's a team sport. And the country's reputation is at stake. So I'm so glad that I made the right decision at the right time. And luckily, we got some exciting young players who came and did well in those 10 test matches. We beat Australia in India 4-0. So that shows that there was talent. And though the talent did well in South Africa and New Zealand, even though the result didn't go our way, but they scored runs. Virat Kohli got 100, Pujara got 100, Rahane got 100, Shikhar got 100. So I think that was the reason why I took the decision.
Okay, we're running out of time. One last question. How far will India go in the World Cup? Call it. Group stages, quarterfinal, semi-final, final?
I wish I could predict in life.
No, call it.
No, I think India will go far. India will go far.
Semi-final?
I would rather say till the finals.
Finals.
Yes, they have the team to go till the finals. They are a very good one-day side. And I firmly believe that. It's not because I'll be heard on TV tonight and I'd want to say the correct things. But I honestly feel that they have a terrific one-day side. They've got some outstanding match winners who actually can win the game on their own. Dhoni, Kohli, Rahane, Rohit Sharma, Shikhar Dhawan, they can take the game away on their own on any day. So when you have players like that in the team, you will always be a formidable side. And India, as I said, the best thing for them is by the time they get to the World Cup, they will be in Australia for 2.5 months. Whether they get battered before that or whether they win before that, whatever happens, they will be ready for the World Cup in terms of conditions. So I feel it's a good opportunity for India to do well. We went to the finals in South Africa in 2003, and it's another good opportunity to go to a final in overseas conditions.
Final, Saurav is saying. What about you? Call
The
it.
same. I would say win the title. And I think the reason for that is very obvious. We got players who have done well. They won Champions Trophy, not even losing one game in England, which was tough conditions, overseas conditions. And the biggest advantage, which Saurav already mentioned, is that Indian team is going to be there for 2.5 months. And most of the guys who are part of the one-day squad are also part of the test team. So they are getting acclimatized to the conditions what they're going to get in the World Cup. So I think that's a big plus compared to the other teams which probably will be there just before the World Cup. And I'm sure that the talent we have, if they play to that potential, and it's about maintaining that consistency during that 1.5 month period in the World Cup. Because there are 4 or 5 teams who have got a good chance. It's a tournament where there are 4 or 5 favorites. But the way Indian team is playing, and because of spending 2.5 months in Australia before the World Cup, I think they will have a good opportunity of defending the title.
Thank you very much. Questions from the floor, please.
Oh, there are lots already.
Yeah. Okay, from the left.
My question is to Saurav. Thank you very much indeed. Saurav, you have been one of the most aggressive Indian captain we ever knew. Now, you said that like you were saying yes to all of your players. So could you tell us when did you say no firmly?
When did I say no? I did tell no at certain times, but you know it's about the feeling about your teammate, and whenever I would interact with a Dravid or a Lakshman or a Sachin or an Anil Kumble, you could see the honesty. You could see the effort from inside to make a difference. So when you have those sort of people in the dressing room, you really don't need to press them hard. I wouldn't say, I don't remember saying no to very important things, because they solved problems for you in the dressing room, and not only by getting runs, but also by keeping the team together, which is so important. Yes, with different peoples, you had to deal differently, the likes of Virendra Sehwag. Only thing I would tell him that Viru for the first 5 overs, just try and defend, because the hardest thing was Virendra Sehwag was to try and defend. Then there was Yuvraj Singh, I had to deal differently. I had to make sure that he was in the hotel before the game starts. And then there was Harbhajan Singh, who actually fought with me in New Zealand in the dressing room. And I had to go and tell him that, can you imagine captain of the team being fought by a youngster, and then the captain goes in the evening and says, let's make it up and keep things going. So that's the way it worked, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with all of these boys. They're still great friends. VVS Lakshman is involved in Bengal cricket in a big way. So these are memories which we'll always remember forever.
Lady on the right-hand side there.
Hi, my question is again for Saurav. I wanted to ask you, India needs Saurav Ganguly as its coach really badly. So what is your take on it?
I'll pass the message to BCCI.
Please do that, and I think from all of our side also. Thank you.
Gentleman over there, please.
We've lived with your successes, we have died with your failure. My dad passed away last year. I mean, let his soul rest in peace. He used to talk to you people on the television when you were batting. The defining moment was not the Eden Garden for the captain, I guess. I mean, it was more to do with the partnership, the technique, which went on to prove that India could do well in terms of Dravid and Lakshman. The defining moment was the NatWest, where you took the T-shirt off. Arnie was here this morning. I think we were...
Who was here this morning?
Schwarzenegger was here, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think we would have been half as happy to see him bare-chested than seeing you that day. Was it a response to the Flintoff removing his T-shirt at Mumbai?
Yes, it was.
I think Flintoff since then has become a boxer. Yes, a little bit, because it was, when you're young, you do a whole lot of things in life, which you realize when you start getting into late 30s and early 40s. And I'm not talking about VVS Lakshman. He was always a very careful, and VVS Lakshman would do puja in the morning before the game started, and I would be just managing to get into the breakfast table. So you do a whole lot of things when you're young, but when you get older, you realize that you shouldn't have done it. And probably this is one thing which I shouldn't have done, but it's happened. And I keep telling Star Sports that, now that I work with Star Sports, every time I open the TV, they keep showing that. I said, listen, I got 1640 deliveries in that game. I've got about close to 12,000 one-day runs for India. Can we see some cover drives and sixes instead of that photo all the time?
Okay, we are really out of time. One last question. Gentleman over there.
I'm probably the youngest in this room. I've been alive for 21 years, watched you for 18 of them, I think. And I can never forget your reaction when Pragyan Oja refused the run in that test and you eventually went on to win. And sir, I respect you for the fact that you don't mince your words on TV, in the columns or any news channel there. But the
But I say
question
good
is...
things about Indian cricket, so clear that.
Of course, no doubt. No doubt. The question, sir, is why can't India produce a brilliant fast bowler? I fail to understand that because Pakistan it's not in the air around India or Pakistan. India is not probably managing the fast bowlers well. Morny, Mokul, Stein are being managed perfectly
Fine.
there.
So why doesn't India produce a great fast bowler? Last question. Thank you.
I asked Kapil Dev that same question 20 years ago, that why there hasn't been another Kapil Dev after that. India has produced good bowlers at times, may not be a Wasim or a Waqar who was just outstandingly gifted. But I think the likes of Srinath, who was genuinely quick though. I don't know whether you've seen him bowl a lot, but I've seen him in South Africa and Australia. Some of the batsmen run towards square leg when Srinath was at his best. Zahir Khan, I thought, was an outstanding seamer. So we've had good bowlers in periods, but obviously, as you said, we've not had the suppliers Pakistan has produced. Pakistan, they say that every city you go or every street you go in Pakistan, you find someone who just turns up and bowls quick. I think it's got to do a lot with the attitude. It's got to do a lot with the role models you have. Pakistan had the likes of Imran, Waqar, Wasim, who would just run up and bowl fast. So it's about the way you think in life, in whatever you do. It's about what you want to become. And sometimes I think the role models in India are sometimes too many batsmen, the likes of Gavaskar, Vishwanath, Mohinder Ramanath, Sachin, VVS, Rahul. So as young players, of Virendra Sehwag, as young players, you ask your nephew or your son, who do you want to be? I want to bat like Tendulkar. I want to bat like Dravid. So probably it's the mindset.
Saurav Ganguly, VVS Lakshman, thank you very much indeed.